Back in my late teens in Dublin, Ireland, I used to head to a particular nightclub every single week and got to know most of the regulars there, to the point that I could sit at any table and know at least a few people. One night, I was introduced to a new woman that no one really knew very well, and I said hello, made very short and polite conversation, and then went about my time as normal, dancing and drinking. Nothing much of note happened during my time in the club. At the end of the night, I left a little earlier than my friends because I lived really far away outside of the city. I got a taxi home and got into bed, falling into a deep sleep. I woke up in the morning, sunlight streaming into the room, and immediately knew something was wrong. Too much weight on the bed. I spun and looked down to the end of the room, and there set on the end of the bed was the woman from the night before, staring at me wide-eyed with utter devotion and a weird smile. It was totally fucking horrible. I had no idea what to say, so I said nothing. I was so weirded out by her expression and the whole bizarre nature of the situation. I was dumbstruck. It wasn't a lustful look. It was spooky, obsessive, insane looking. I know for a lot of guys, the idea of having some random woman appear in their bedroom might be a thrill, but this was nothing like that. It was scary, plain and simple. I got up, got dressed, summoned up a bit of courage, turned to her and said, "You're leaving, now," and essentially marched her out of the house, telling her that buses leave from the end of the road every half hour. She left without saying anything. From talking to friends and family, I pieced together what had happened. After I left the nightclub, she had tried to catch up to me, but instead had lost me. She went back, asked around until someone told her the rough area I lived in, got a taxi there, knocked on random doors, waking up neighbors, and eventually one told her exactly where I lived, and then lied to my sister, saying that I had been expecting her. My sister was pissed off at being woke up, but let her in. From there, she got to my room and sat there for who knows how long, silently watching me. As it turns out, almost nobody from the club knew her at all, but we all assumed someone else must know her. What really spooks me is that if she wanted to hurt me for whatever reason, she easily found her way into my family's house, right into my bedroom. I'm shuddering just thinking about it. My parents, bless them, had nothing but the best of intentions when they tried to shelter my sister and I as much as they could. They educated us to the point where we knew what the world was like when they thought it was appropriate, but I had to acquire street information for myself. This made itself apparent when I went on an overnight to the university I would eventually attend. Sitting in my host's dorm room, one of her hallmates passed by and mentioned he had special cookies. They were excited, so it threw them off when I legitimately asked if his mom made him cookies or something. Flash forward to last year. The first semester of junior year is spent abroad in my university's London site. My drug knowledge has gone up a bit, but as the one vice I have is Jack Daniels, I still don't know much. My best friend Sammy was among the students who went, so many of our 3-day weekends were devoted to travel. Airfare was cheap, so why not? This particular weekend brought us to Kiev. We arrived and promptly made friends with a group of girls at our hostel from Mariupol, who thankfully spoke English. They invited us to a nightclub, and we accepted. I was in a particularly good mood for whatever reason, and found myself quickly inebriated, dancing with some of my new friends, and Sammy. I excused myself to go to the bathroom.
"A little blonde girl."
Even over the music, I heard it, and knew it was directed at me. That's a pretty accurate description of my person. It was a man who looked like a bear, huge, dark features, leer in his eye. I, of course, in my drunk state, was thrilled to make a new friend. He asked if I wanted to have a good time, and if I liked what he offered me. I could have an even better time with him and his friends. He produced what looked like a vial of murky red liquid. I took it, and then he pulled a needle out. That spooked me, but I was also intrigued. I watched him fill it up, tap it, and felt a little splatter go on my arm. A faint scent of iodine filled the air, and suddenly my brain snapped back to reality. "I need to go," I mumbled. He didn't like this, and grabbed my wrist, turning it so my inner arm was facing outward.
"My friends want to meet you,"
he said, poising the needle. I stepped on his foot, hard. He lost his grip, and I ran back to my friends, asked them to leave, too shaken up to tell what happened, and not wanting to spoil the evening. The next morning, we all met for breakfast, and I told them my experience. The girls from Mariupol grew somber. "It was a red liquid?" I nodded. "It smelt like the doctors," I said, and they gave me a horrified look. "That's crocodile, okay? Don't touch that stuff, it really messes you up. Especially a girl like you who's never taken drugs. Yeah, it's not like ketamine, but he was going to hurt you. You did say you washed your hands, right? It rots flesh. I don't plan on going back to Kiev." This might not be your typical encounter, but it chilled me to the core. It is actually the main reason I no longer work in the industry, though I tell people it was the hours that made me quit. This happened when I was doing nightclub security in the UK. I was just chilling on the front door. I see a fight happening with a guy chasing another one down across the street, and I'm like, oh well, it happens. 99% of the time, they just shout a little bit and try to intimidate one another, and go get a kebab and puke. Mainly, they just look to make the other person think they are going to fight. Think peacocks shaking feathers at one another. This time, however, the guys got into a tussle against a parked car, and pretty quickly, the chased guy was down for the count and passed out after some hefty blows. At this point, I need to intervene. It has literally been seconds since the start of the fight, but they are across a very busy one-way street, so I try to stop the car so I can get there on time. It feels like hours, but I get in between them. The aggressor guy is really only kicking the other guy's head over and over, full force as he lies on the ground. I realize he might die. I think to myself, why am I getting in the middle of it? But I can't help it. I get between them, shout at the aggressor to stop. Luckily, guys don't often want to fight girls. I am ready to defend myself in any case. He makes at me like he is going to start kicking me too, and I brace myself to block any strikes. He grins and books it up the road instead, and now I can focus on the guy on the ground. I tried to give him first aid, stop the bleeding. His face is just a hole basically, so it's pretty bad, and the back of his head is gone too. I know of the ode, if you need someone in a gathering to phone an ambulance, you need to choose a person and give them direct orders, not just ask in general. So I ask, more like bark and order at, the only guy around with a phone, to call 999. His eyes are blank and he holds his phone still. It's like in a nightmare when you yell to draw attention to something, but no one can hear you. I tell him again, nothing. Again, nothing. I start shouting, raising my voice. He needs to call an ambulance. The guy is dying. He needs help. I realize by the way the guy is moving around that he is filming us, probably trying to get a good shot of the guy's face as he lies dying by me. I feel like I am in Black Mirror. Eventually, someone else phoned and I haven't seen any YouTube clips from that area or rough date, though I have looked. He might have taken it down. My incessant shouting at him and asking what is wrong with him might have deprived him of some likes or something. I don't know what happened to any party. I'm going to court soon for the assault attempted murder, but I'm not sure what the charge is. I am pretty sure the injured guy made it out. I never saw anything about it in the news, which is a good indicator. He might not have been so lucky though. I am sure he stopped breathing just before help arrived. I'll never forget this guy's blank, hollow eyes while he moved around me trying to film. I just prayed that if something happens to me or someone I care about, bystanders will call for help instead of trying to capture suffering on film. I used to drink at a certain pub in Glasgow and go on to a nightclub after. The pub was populated by bikers and other heavy music fans, and this one guy that wore pale blue jeans, a white iron shirt, totally didn't fit in. Now, I'm an antisocial girl, so I would sit in the pub with a book. I liked a pint, music, and having people around. I just didn't like talking. White shirt man kept trying. He would nod at me whenever I looked up, try and buy me a drink when I went to the bar, and several times he sat at my table, trying to start a conversation. Apparently saying, "Sorry, not interested," didn't mean anything to him. One night, I was really dressed up because I felt like it. Creepy white shirt guy kept trying to catch my eye. When I walked around to the nightclub, he followed me persistently, trying to get my attention. Walking in the club, I gave the bouncer my usual nod greeting. They all knew me. When I went to pay to get inside, a white shirt arm popped past me and he said, "Two, we are together." I said no, "One for me please, Kate," and went in. All night this dickhead followed me. The club has 3 floors and was packed, but this guy would even wait outside the loos if I went in. One friend I left my drink with later admitted he put it down on the bar for a while. After a while, I started feeling odd, very odd. I was dizzy, sweating, shaking. I decided I must be coming down with something and headed home. I don't remember going down the stairs, but apparently white shirt followed me. However, the bouncer stopped the creep from getting to me when he tried saying I had too much to drink. I used to run pubs. The bouncer knew I knew my limits and said I wasn't drunk, I was ill. White shirt guy got pushy, and Dale the bouncer ended up pinning him against a wall. However, during this time I wandered off. One street behind the club is the red light district. No idea how I got there, but I was spotted 3 hours later walking up to the main road by my home. My skirt was ripped. I had no shoes, coat, or bag. A biker friend, who is also a cab driver, recognized my tattoos from the back and stopped to see if I was okay. He instantly realized I wasn't, got me in his car, and phoned the nearby hospital to say he was bringing me in. 3 days later, I finally make enough sense to find out what happened. My drink was spiked with ketamine, a borderline dangerous dose. The cab driver talked to Dale the bouncer, and between them, they figured out what had happened. The cab driver and his friends tracked down white shirt creep and gave him a kicking. Then the railway lads heard, and they gave him a kicking. He was banned from the club and the bar club. It was an awful long time before I went out again though. This story happened a few months ago, and I haven't told anyone about it yet, save for the friend that is indirectly involved. Anyway, it was about a year ago. It was my 18th birthday. I got together with 3 coworkers, Mallory, Lisa, and Wendy. Mallory and Lisa were eager to go party, but I stayed back in the car with Wendy while she finished off a beer. We talked and talked for a good hour, and we got to the subject of sexuality. Wendy was drunk. I was not. I came out to her. I'm a guy and gay. Wendy didn't give a fuck. We had a good laugh, and she promised to help me meet a guy for my birthday. I'm not the type of person to do that, but I went along with it. We go in, dance for an hour or so. Meanwhile, Wendy continues to get shit-faced. She buys drink after drink, beer after beer, and she starts hitting on all of these guys. I forgot to mention that Wendy has been in a relationship for over 8 years, but when she gets drunk, she's out of control. I go back and sit by the dance floor. Mallory and Lisa are annoyed with Wendy and tell me they are going up to the 2nd floor where the bar is, and that they will be back down in a few minutes. It wasn't all that fun, because I was the only one under 21. I felt like I needed a drink. I don't do social situations like that very well. A few minutes pass, and Wendy stumbles over, laughing hysterically. She tells me that she gave this guy my number. I'm shocked, then figure she's joking. She forgets about it really fast, and we spend the night dancing. Mallory and Lisa come back down, and the night goes on without any problems. It's about 3 a.m. We're all tired. The club is about to close. Lisa, Mallory, and Wendy are all in the bathroom, heaving their guts, completely shit-faced. I walk outside to get some fresh air when my phone rings. I hear Wendy calling for me, so I answer my phone without paying attention to the number. "Hello," I say. There's a long pause. I hear breathing, then muffled laughter in the background. I hear someone shushing someone else. Then I hear a faint Hi. Who is this? I'm tending to Wendy while talking on the phone. Your friend gave me your number. The voice is low and garbled. In the pit of my stomach, I feel uneasy. A chill runs through me, but I brush it off. Yeah, sorry about her. She's drunk. I laugh, teasing Wendy as she frowns. There's another pause on the other end. I hear a clicking sound. Wendy runs to the corner to puke again. I roll my eyes, now focusing on the conversation. I'm sorry she bothered you, I go on. I understand. I'm going to rape your friend, you faggot. The words slice through my phone speaker and rattle me to the core. The way he said it, the swiftness of his tongue, the emphasis on the word faggot. I sucked in a quick breath. I pull the phone away. The screen says unknown number. At this point, I'm freaking out, but I'm the only one sober enough to form a coherent thought. Instead of pressing for info, I hang up. I get everyone out of the bathroom and into the car. As we're all getting situated, bright headlights come on behind me. My phone rings again. I answer. 3 of them for me, faggot. Let's race. For some reason, maybe it was my flat-out terror and shock of the situation, but I wanted to laugh. My friends were drunkenly questioning who called me, and I waved them off, staring at the bright lights behind me. I pulled out of the parking lot. The car behind me followed. My heart was pounding. I didn't know what to do. Wendy and Lisa fell asleep. Mallory was singing some dumbass Justin Bieber song at the top of her lungs, and I was driving to get the fuck away from this psycho asshole behind me. My phone kept ringing, unknown number, and I gunned it. At this point, I didn't even care if I got pulled over. I welcomed some police interference. But luck wasn't on my side that night, and the streets were empty. I did the only thing I knew to do, drive straight to the police station. Mallory, there's someone chasing us. I was freaking out, looking into the rearview mirror and doing 80 in a 45 zone. Dude, you're fucking wasted, Mallory grinned, leaning close to me. I shook my head, swerving onto the main highway. The lights behind us followed, and I was near a nervous breakdown. I started thinking about all those crazed lunatic urban legends about someone following you and there's a killer in your back seat. In my case, it wasn't a killer back there, but my 2 drunken friends asleep and drooling on one another. I see the sign for the police station. Mallory is still singing, oblivious, and I swerve into the parking lot. The lights follow me. Mallory suddenly sobers up when she sees the idle police cars in the lot. Dude, we can't go here. I'm drunk. She looked up at me and panicked. I waited in the parking lot. The lights eventually pull out after stopping for what seemed like hours behind our car. As the lights pull onto the highway, I see that it's a white truck. I memorize the make, model, brand, etc., and the plate number. I drive everyone home and call the police and report the phone calls and tell them the plate number. Turns out, the truck was stolen. No idea who was calling me. There's no telling what would have happened if I hadn't went to the police station. It's fucked up, and I told Mallory all of it the next morning. I'm never going to that club again. I want to preface this by saying that this didn't happen to me, but to my mother when she was in her 20s. I am just finding out about the story. One night, a few decades ago, my mom was out of town in a nightclub with her best friend, Mary. My mom and Mary were enjoying themselves, dancing and doing whatever. Through the night, my mom found herself dancing with this one guy. At first, he was fun, and my mom enjoyed dancing with him. As the night progressed, however, he became a lot more annoying. He insisted that my mom leave with him, to which my mom declined. He was persistent, and my mom had enough. She basically told him to screw off. She had not seen him for the rest of the night. My mom had stayed in this town for another day with Mary, and they decided that they would be leaving to go home during the evening. As they were ready to leave to go home, the drive was about 45 minutes to an hour away. They picked up this guy they've known for a while. Everyone knew him. His name was T. He was also known as being a typical drunk, but he wasn't a bad person. He was also a big guy. He lived in the same town as my mom and Mary, so he hitched a ride home with them. About 20 minutes into their drive, my mom, the driver, notices she's being followed by a police car. I don't remember if she told me if it was an actual police car or an undercover police car. Expecting to be pulled over, she slows down, and sure enough, the police car turns on its lights, and my mom pulls over. My mom is a very sassy person. She immediately got out of the car, probably not the best thing to do when pulled over, but she was young and naive. The cop got out of his car and immediately told my mom to get back into the car. My mom immediately recognizes that it's the annoying guy from the club. My mom, being herself, told him no. She says I'm exercising my legs. She then started to do jumping jacks. The guy puts his hand on his holster as if he was about to pull out his gun. He yells at her to get back in the car. My mom says, "Absolutely not. I remember you. You're just mad I wouldn't leave the club with you. You had no reason to pull me over, you no good ugly asshole." She had a few more choice words for him. Mary, in the passenger seat still, yells at my mom, telling her to just get in the car. T, who was asleep in the back seat, awakens during all the commotion. T was a really big guy. When the cop notices there was someone in the back, he shines his flashlight and sees T. My mom was already expecting to be arrested for being disorderly. Then, my mom said the weirdest thing happened. This cop immediately backs up and goes back into his car and speeds away. Up until that point, my mom thought this guy was a real cop and wanted to give her a ticket, since she rejected him. But after he immediately left, she decides to call the police department to ask if they had anyone by the name of Ramirez, badge number 0184. She memorized his name and badge. After calling several towns with everyone saying they do not have such a person working for them, she, Mary, and T were asked to come in and help identify and find this guy. A week passes, and he is nowhere to be found, until Mary spots him at a different club. My mom decided to stay home, spooked by the whole incident a week prior. Mary sees him and immediately calls my mom. They're both freaking out at this point. My mom calls the police right after and gives them the location. State troopers and police from several towns arrive and get this guy. They raid his house and find tons of police officer paraphernalia, illegal weapons, and pictures of several women in his house. He acquired many charges, including the impersonation of a police officer and something along the lines of intimidation with a weapon. He was thrown into jail for several years. It's crazy thinking of what he was planning to do if my mom had complied. He had sets of cuffs in his car. You occasionally hear these stories of someone impersonating a police officer to do malicious things, but I never thought that would happen to my own mother. It's crazy she waited until now to tell me.